A while back, I was listening to some YouTube channels on these knurling tools, and a lot of people were saying that they put excessive pressure on the spindle. And I really don't want to have to rip my lathe apart constantly if that's the case, and these things do, in fact, cause problems. So I decided I was going to build my own knurling tool and see some other people's designs, and came up with my own design. And first of all, I found some nice steel I had, and I need to cut it square and get it ready. And first thing to do here is just take that right angle on the edge there and mark that off. Now, so, for some reason, when I did this measurement, I came out about an inch past where I marked it off for some reason, and I don't know why. But you'll see after I cut it, that I do have about an inch of extra material there that is coming off of this thing. One other thing, when I started this, my initial design that I started really got changed dramatically throughout the build. And unfortunately, by the end of it, I had one of the parts, which was the part that would actually get secured into the holder, was from the earlier design, and the rest was from a ladder concept I had, and the two just didn't work out. And I will have to go back. What you see on the right there, that extra inch, yeah, that was from not having that ruler at my first scratch line. So there's a T in the center, then the two parts above and below the T are going to get used for the arms of this knurling tool. I do not have a horizontal band, so at one point I'm going to take this thing, and you can take that shock off of there and stand it upright, and I'm going to make a plate for it so I can actually use it as a horizontal, or I'll just buy a used horizontal at some point of time. These things came off nice and easy. For the most part, the machine did the work. This one, a little bit of tapping with light tapping with a hammer, and it was easily removed. Kind of looking at it, I think I might have should have become a dentist instead. I got a knack for removing things like this with a hammer. Anyways, it came off pretty good, and it's time to get the rest of this stuff all squared up and ready to start building this project. So there's the T, which is the base, and there's two arms plus that one extra piece I have just in case there's something else I want to machine out of this. One of the ideas I had when I was doing this was to make it a little bit adjustable, so those arms could go up and down on that T, as well as in and out. And after the fact, when it's all said and done, I don't even think there's a single use I'll have for the maximum adjustment. Um, for this, I was just trying to find out the size of the hole on these. These are actually store bought. They're the cutters. I was not about to make cutters. I don't have everything set up to harden at this point. And when I started working on this, after a while, the oils and everything will get pushed out of that range that you usually use on your equipment, and there's grit and everything else, and it finally gets to the point where it starts getting a little hard to get the full range without adjusting that gib. So this thing came apart for its first time ever. When I say it came apart, it really came apart. The only thing that was actually left there was a couple of the DROs and the base itself. Everything else is apart, and everything else got a really good cleaning. The gibs on this went together nice. Unlike my lathe on the cross side, this went back together really nice. But you can see there, it's pretty much as stripped down as possible. I'm glad I did. It allowed everything to get cleaned. It was only the top up and down that I was having a little bit of problems with, and that I wanted to get this kit off of a fellow Priest Tools in the States for a long time now to run my Z axis. Uh, but every time I think about it, it's already to the point where I've got this thing going back together and why buy it. So to line this all up, of course, I'm just lining it at the edge of the vise to get my hose drilled, and that way it's repeatable on all the pieces. On the back here, there's two drills, a drill used to cut in two different sizes and doing a little bit of chamfer in here. Then, of course, on the front, there's the one hole that will allow for the cutter to go in there. And then there's a lot of material that has to get cut out of all this. Um, both the pieces have been put together backwards of each other, that they're how they're going on, and it was just a matter of using a half-inch carbide end mill to cut out all that material, which on these little machines takes a long, long time. And when I was getting closer to the part down at the bottom there, I did put that clamp on there just in case that thing decided to bind. I didn't want it to throw one of the two out when you're crossing the line between the two and cause havoc. At the end, they worked out really good. Unfortunately, though, the T piece I cut was for a thinner design tooling. Um, so at some point, I'm going to have to go back and remake one of those or leave shims in it. And this, I just got the two pieces together here. I need a semicircle cut out of each one of them with a little semicircle piece of material in there to allow a threaded screw to tighten the two together. You can't just put them, into each other, or the screw will bend the first time you try to tighten it, and that'll be that for the tool. So from there, just getting the front holes drilled, and now I'm down to the point of making the semicircle. So I figured just easier just to, get a piece of bar and keep measuring it and flatten it out in the mill as I go. And at this point, it's just about done. It's just a matter of cutting it and cleaning it up and making sure the pieces are fitting good and don't have any burrs or anything on that, and then getting them drilled. And after that, it's just a matter of sizing them. And for drilling them, I'm just using the drill here to go at each side of the vise. You can see the little piece in the center there, and for accuracy, that's good enough for what this thing actually is. It's not meant to or has to be the most accurate thing in the world. Put a little hole through it, and then came back in and actually drilled. And you can see when it drilled there, uh, that one end on there just kind of flipped out a little bit, and luckily it the parallel didn't get hurt at all. We're at the point now where I don't know what I was thinking here, but I bought these woodruff tools or woodruff cutters, and I was thinking, hey, I can bring these in, and there will be no exposure on the end, and the tooling will fit right in there. And somehow I had the feeling, or somehow I thought that I could actually push that right through to where that hole is. And surprise, it didn't work. Um, so what and you can see kind of what I was going for there. But I just could not, well, it's physically impossible to get the part that's not cutting through the steel you don't want to cut to get it cut. What I ended up doing is just taking an end mill and chopping them off, which worked pretty good. And out of the deal, I actually got a nice set of woodruff cutters, so I'm not overly disappointed. For the spring, I this is the second spring I've done, and new way of doing it is I just got some threaded rod and held it on there with that vice grip and just wound it around that rod. And now most of the pieces are all done. It's just a matter of putting this thing back together. And I have to say, so the pins and the first pin I got here that I'll put in, originally the pins were supposed to have a blocked end, and then on the other end went the clip. And unfortunately, I grabbed the measurement off that type of design, and it was perfectly flush with the with the arm there. And luckily, I checked that before I made any of the rest of them. So I went back and added enough so that I could put a clip on each side of it. Now, when I tried to film this, putting this together, these clips just would not stay in. I swear there was like 5 minutes of filming that I'm trying to get clips on this thing. As soon as I turned the camera off, the clips went right in. So needless to say, most of this is done without being filmed. and it did go together actually pretty easy at that point. It just didn't go all that together all that easy on the filming part. Here you can actually see like there's two holes, an upper hole, low hole, and a lower hole, so you can bring those arms in closer, and on the arms as well. They got two holes to bring it in and out of it. If I ever do make something again, well, I will be making a tea again more than likely. It's just going to have the one hole in it. After I seen how much versatility the one hole had on these things, there's nothing I can think of that I'd have to get drilled out for that other hole, or the outer hole will do all the work that the inner hole will do. So the next thing after getting the arms on is to actually get the screw tightener on here, and the tolerance the tolerance on these little brass bushings I have are it's just phenomenal. They actually had to get threaded onto the threaded rod. I did take them off and took a file and just filed them a little bit on the inside so that independently slide on there and not have to be threaded on, because having to thread them on means if you're tightening them up, you're pushing them on, past the point of where they want to go. So there that thing is, all put together. Next thing is to give it a try and see how it works. And I did have to make a little bit of adjustment on the depth of that tee. I thought I had some quick release that fit an inch, but they didn't. So I grabbed a little bit of aluminum to try it out on here, just to give it a nice easy load to start off with. And it was cutting. Unfortunately, though, as soon as they started, the top arm went out of parallel by about 2 to 4 degrees, somewhere in that margin. Later on, I did put some shims in there to try to recut it, because when I pull the tool off here, or well, after this little bit, you can see what it looks like when that thing's just off a bit. The lines, they go a little bit wonky. Though it is impressive that it actually got something. So I, I kind of got a win there. But looking at those lines, you can see how they're just going upwards, and it needs to be going straight across. I did have some shims available around the shop here, and like I said, the next thing as you can see, the one arm in this or the holder in the center was not designed for that. It was two different concepts. So I will have to either permanently make some shims for this or just make a new holder for it. Now, if you look here, you can see some shims in there, and you can see how nice that thing's actually turning. Another thing I did change is that brass on the top. Extremely difficult to tighten up, so I did put a nut on there instead, which made it so much better. And you can feel as the thing's going that it's grabbing good. So this is, after the shims are in there and it's nice straight cut on it, a little bit of tinkering around to do to make sure the upper and lowers are adjusted the same. And, for the most part, that's about it. It was an interesting build. What I got coming up next, I'm really excited about. I thought it wouldn't be a long time, but I was talking from Greg at Priest Tools, and we come up with the conclusion that one of his kits will actually work on my mill with a little bit of modification. So hopefully the next video upload will have that thing actually powered up and down.